considered to be anti-developmental. So we're looking for other ways of working, and therefore have opted to call ourselves development practitioners. Still very committed to organizations and their development, but wanting to distance ourselves from some of the excesses of the consultancy world. My roles in Cdra, so as a practitioner, I do the same as Rupert, involved in all the different programs of the organization. The one he didn't go into in detail really is an attempt as a Center for Developmental Practice to harness and somebody used the word amplify the voice of practitioners in the sector. We believe that practitioners have enormous knowledge based on their experience, and that knowledge is not shaping the sector as much as sort of policymakers and so on, who we feel often have not had the advantage of being intimately involved. So we bring groups of practitioners together to reflect on aspects of practice. We attempt to distill learning from that and to share it more broadly with the sector. We have a number of activities that do that. So I'm involved in all of those, and then I have the added responsibility, as we all do, in taking sort of leadership and management responsibility for certain aspects of the organization, and my particular responsibility is for the organization as a whole. So I'm called the executive director when things get tough. A lot of the enormous issues that continue to challenge our sector or our industry as a whole to be truly effective in its purpose of trying to address society's tendency to exclude and to impoverish and to marginalize large, enormous sectors of global society. So in that sense, it's a real burning issue, and I don't know, there's so many ways into it, but just in the way you presented it, introducing the business side of kind of charity work and organizations and helping organizations become more business-like, and then you refer to the objective of building civil society. Now, immediately for me, when you bring together business and becoming business-like and civil society, enormous warning bells go on for me. Business is shaping the world. Business is all-powerful in the world. The market assumes that it has the answer to the great challenges facing the world at the moment. And certainly as an organization and as a person who identifies with the function of civil society, I challenge very, very deeply that assumption that the market has the answer to resolving the functions that civil society performs in society. And for me, there is now a part of the new superior religion is, for us, seems to be managerialism in Europe. And at the heart of managerialism is this ability to measure impact and look for results and so on. And quite simply, if we look honestly at the results of these well-intended interventions into bridging the gap and including the excluded, our success rate is very, very low globally. And I think we're moving into a period now where we must celebrate the fact that the issue of poverty is slowly getting onto the agenda of business and government in the world, slowly. And that genuinely is a victory. But for me, the assumption that being more businesslike is really going to address these issues has to be looked at very, very critically. And I think a part of the whole intervening out of wealth and power into systems which are considered to be poor, the practice of that needs to be looked at because we need new practice. I mean, the old practices are not proving to be effective. And really that's what our center is all about. We don't claim to have the answers, but we are starting to look for ways of building a new practice. So that's a little introduction to the fire in the belly. And again, it's this individualism, and sort of heroic individualism is a big, big thing in shaping our world today. And for me, what's interesting about putting the word social and entrepreneur together, I think the way it's been interpreted is that we've had business entrepreneurs, but now we've made our money from business and now we want to turn it into doing the good, into more social things. But there's another meaning of the word social, and it's kind of the opposite of individualism. It's being social beings. We are, and this is the African perspective, the conception is that we only are as individuals because we are a part of the community, and actually community comes first, not individual. So for me, it could be so exciting if it was deeply social entrepreneurship that was being looked at now, that it was how collectively we could relate to each other differently and bring new forms. So a conference, for instance, coming back to the conference theme, we're experimenting with an anti-conference conference. We host a conference every 2 years when no address is delivered by anybody to anybody at all. Nobody gets up and gives a paper or a speech or shares their great wisdom and superior kind of view, but it's conversations between people. For instance, just the word evaluation, for us it's an absolutely central thing, but we emphasize seeking the value, real value. So we use all these. Measurement is vital. But I want to go on to one other point related to practice. You used the old bottom-up rather than top-down. And again, I wanted just to try and share a sense of how we think our practice needs to be different. We don't see it as bottom-up as opposed to top-down. For us, bottom-up, top-down are just turning the same thing upside down. For us, what is more helpful to think of is inside out. And that changes everything. If you approach development from the inside out, it puts you at the center of development, not the poor, not Africa, not anywhere else, but me. And development starts in taking your own development seriously, recognizing the complex interconnectedness of living systems. It is simply laughable to imagine that Africa is going to change with Europe staying the same. It's a joke, and rather sick joke, actually. So, this thing of don't look at us, we don't need to change, but we're here to help you change. I'm sorry, folks, that's not how development really works. And unless we start experimenting with how difficult it is to change relationships in looking at how you relate to yourself, and whether you can shift the way you relate to yourself and the way you limit yourself and the way you cut yourself off from the way the world is, we believe you are not taking development really seriously. So that has very significant implications for practice again. And that means that organizations involved in development, this charities, whatever it is back home, that is really dedicated towards helping others, we would be very interested to see how they're doing internally. How have power dynamics shifted inside their organization over the last 10 years? How have all these high ideals that we carry, and we're not in any way judging their sincerity or their real intentions to bring about positive change. But from our vantage point, there is an absolute dearth of interesting examples of people, even the powerful, shifting power relations. When we work in the North, we are actually quite distressed at how many people working in these very powerful organizations, to us they look powerful, feel totally disempowered, totally marginalized. And we more and more recognize that we are all facing the same challenge, that the systems that shape society are evident throughout society. And projecting, and the measurement, again, coming back to measurement, for us one of the very interesting things is that people want to measure the impact as far from themselves as possible. The poor must prove to Europe that the taxpayers' money of Europe is really making a difference to the poor. We want to know, how it's making a difference every step of the way. And are we changing society as a whole in the process? But very seldom do you see this great commitment to measurement starting right at home.